Alrighty, welcome back to the Onebar and Lupagus show. I am Lupagus, and today we're going to talk about things we learned about the Minnesota Vikings' new regime after the first week of free agency. Before we talk about that, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the vids. We are so close to giving away the hashtag 6,000 drawing, and we're almost to 6,500. So you can still put hashtag 6,000 in the comments, because we have not yet done that drawing, so make sure you do that. I think the giveaway, we finally decided what it's going to be. I'm going to drop the news right now, $100 gift card to NFLshop.com. Hell yeah. All right, so it's been a week into free agency. I mean, depending when you look at the starting date, I think officially it is a week now, so we can actually say it has been truly a week. And what are some things that happened that we can kind of, I don't know, just say that we learn about, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and the coaching staff, this new regime. What are some things we can take away from it? What are some things we learned about them? So let's just start with the first one. They're true to their word. When they came here, the first thing Kwesi was asked was about Kirk Cousins, and he said, I think Kirk Cousins is a great player, excited to work with him, blah, blah, blah. Same thing, Kevin O'Connell said very similar thing. And then Kevin O'Connell went on to praise the entire roster, thought it was a talented group of players, said how tough it was when they came here and played them in December. So looking at the moves they made after week one, what did they do? Kwesi extends Kirk Cousins. They bring back players like Adam Thielen, Harrison Smith, Danielle Hunter. So everything they've said when they got here has really come to fruition. We can take them at their word, which isn't the case with Rick Spielman. Comes on and says we're not trading Stephon Diggs. A couple days later, you trade Stephon Diggs. So I think this new regime, it's safe to say at this point that when they say something, we can believe them, and it's what they're going to do, because that's what we've seen them do so far. So I think it's safe to assume that that's the way it's going to be moving forward. The next thing we learned is that they have a certain type of player they go after, and this really shows in the first couple of big signings they made. Harrison Phillips, Jordan Hicks. Harrison Phillips, 26-year-old guy coming into a second contract, never really been a full-time starter, but a guy who has had some productive years and feels like a lot of good football ahead of him. And you're getting him at a cap-friendly deal. Same with Jordan Hicks, a guy, this will be his third contract, but super productive. Getting him at a cap space where it's, I think it's 2 years, $10 million, and it's very friendly to the Vikings cap number, and you're going to get a productive player out of that. So they definitely have their player, the kind of player they want to go after, a guy in his 20s, cap-friendly kind of player who's still producing. So I think we can identify moving forward, even in the next year's free agency, the type of prospects or the type of players, type of free agents that this regime is going to target when they go and spend their money. Speaking of spending money, one thing we learned, and Kwesi came out and said it in his press conference, I think it was, the second day of free agency, is that they're not going to get into bidding wars. He said, we're not here to win bidding wars. We're here to win football games. You go out and see what Jacksonville Jaguars did, throwing all this money at guys like Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and whoever. I mean, the freaking Jaguars signed everybody. The Vikings weren't going to do that, and they really couldn't. They didn't have the money to do that. But you look at them being linked to Lake and Tomlinson. There's no way the Vikings are getting a bidding war there. So that's good to hear coming from the GM that they're not going to do that. They're not going to overspend. They're not going to, just because they want a player, they're not going to give them an extra $30 million over 4 years because they have to have them here. It's not their style. It's not what they're going to do. They value. And I think that's something that we're going to see in the entire Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah tenure, no matter how long that's going to be. Another thing I think it showed with this Darius Smith signing is when they want somebody, they're going to go all out. They're going to tell everybody that they want this guy. Hell, Darius Smith gets to Minnesota. He's got his name up on the freaking billboard. They put it on their Instagram. They put a freaking graphic, welcome Zadarius Smith to town. You don't see that, every team doing that. So not only did they want him, they showed that they want him. They put the word out there. They put the full court press on him. Adam Thielen trying to recruit him through Twitter, tell him to come here. Hunter giving him calls. So it's a full press. So when the Vikings want somebody, when they bring somebody in for a visit and they really want him, they're going to let the guy know, and they're going to let the whole world know what they want him. And it worked with Zadarius Smith. Let's go back. We said they're not going to overpay. I don't think, and you can argue this, Zadarius Smith, if they overpaid or not. $14 million, I think, is the cap hit this year. I just feel if he's healthy and he produces the way he should next to Danielle Hunter, that's going to feel like a hell of a bargain. So I'm not really worried about that number. And the final thing I think we learned about the new regime after the first week of free agency is that they really truly believe that the coaching here was the problem. You just look at what happened. They pretty much cleaned out the entire coaching staff. And right now they've kept the majority of the roster. In fact, the Vikings starting 53 is going to look very similar to what we've seen in the last couple of years. Yeah, there'll probably be a handful of spots that are different, but every move they've made just shows that they really feel, and maybe this is even coming from ownership so much more than Kwesi, but they feel the coaching was the issue, that Mike Zimmer wasn't getting the job done. His coaching staff wasn't getting the job done. The players were right, but they weren't being put in the proper positions to win. So all these moves point to that. And you look at the roster compared to what coaches are still here and what players are still here, and it definitely proves that that was the point. Now, this does put some extra pressure, I think, on Kevin O'Connell to perform right away, to have success right away. But if it's truly the case, we will find out by about mid-October next year if coaching was truly the problem in Minnesota. So those are some things we learned about the new regime after the first week in free agency. Let me know if you learned anything else. And maybe, you know, let me learn something about you. I don't know. And if you haven't learned this yet, well, you better start studying. And that is to keep your skull in your hole.